Hello friends and welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we'll be talking about the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 and this is part 2 of the 3 modules dealing with this subject. What are the learning objectives for this session? 1. To gain an overview of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 but with specific regard to children in need of care and protection. To enable an understanding of the authorities dealing with this group of children, to enable an understanding of how these children in need of care and protection are treated under this Act, and to enable an understanding of the institutional and non-institutional rehabilitative provisions available for these children. This module is the second of 3 related modules that provide a brief overview of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, which came into force on the 15th of January 2015. The JJ Act 2015 provides the legal framework for how children in need of care and protection by the state, including children who are victims of crime and in need of such care and protection, and also children alleged and found to be in conflict with law, should be dealt with by the state. The Ministry of Women and Child Development notified the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Model Rules 2016 to carry out the purposes of the Act, and this was notified on the 21st of September 2016. This module, however, does not include an overview of these model rules as it is beyond the scope of the same. This module provides an overview of provisions that apply specifically to children in need of care and protection coming under the purview of this Act. Let's talk a little bit more about this group of children. Though all children, due to their vulnerability and growing developmental status, are in need of care and protection by adult caregivers in varying degrees, there are some children who fall out of the safety net of the family and the community, placing them at greater risk. These children become the responsibility of the state in its welfare role. Section 2, subclause 14 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 defines the term child in need of care and protection, of course, by the state, irrespective of whether or not the child has a family. The definition includes a child who is found in any one or more of the following situations: without any home or settled place of abode and without any ostensible means of subsistence, working in contravention of labor laws for the time being in force, or is found begging or living on the street, or resides with a person who has injured, exploited, abused or neglected the child, or has violated any other law for the time being in force meant for the protection of child, or resides with a person who has threatened to kill, injure, exploit or abuse the child, and there is a reasonable likelihood of the threat actually being carried out, or the child resides with a person who has killed, abused, neglected or exploited some other child or children, and there is a reasonable likelihood of the child in question being killed, abused, exploited or neglected by that person, or the child is mentally ill or mentally or physically challenged or suffering from terminal or incurable disease, having no one to support or look after, or having parents or guardians unfit to take care and found so by the Juvenile Justice Board or the Child Welfare Committee, or the child has a parent or guardian, but such parent or guardian is found to be unfit or incapacitated by the Child Welfare Committee or the Juvenile Justice Board to care for and protect the safety and well-being of the child, or the child does not have parents and no one is willing to take care of, or the child has parents who have abandoned or surrendered him. For example, this category would include children who are orphaned, found abandoned, or who have been surrendered to the Child Welfare Committee by the parent. Or is a child who is missing or a runaway child, or whose parents cannot be found after making reasonable inquiry. Or the child has been or is being or is likely to be abused, tortured or exploited for the purpose of sexual abuse or any other illegal acts, or is found vulnerable and likely to be inducted into drug abuse or trafficking, or the child is being or is likely to be abused for unconscionable gains, or the child is a victim or affected by any armed conflict, civil unrest, or natural calamity, or the child is at imminent risk of marriage before attaining the age of marriage, and whose parents, family members, guardians, and any other persons are likely to be responsible for solemnization of such marriage. In addition, if a child alleged to be in conflict with law on inquiry by the JJB is found to actually be innocent of a charge against him, such a child may actually be transferred by the Juvenile Justice Board to the Child Welfare Committee if such child is found to be a child in need of care and protection. A child who is seen to be at risk in any of the above situations may be brought before a Child Welfare Committee, the authority having the power to dispose of such cases. The CWC will determine whether or not such child should get care and protection by the state, and if so, what orders it may pass that could be in the child's best interests. Let's talk a little bit more about what is a Child Welfare Committee. The Child Welfare Committee is the authority which has the power to deal exclusively with all proceedings under this Act relating to this group of children, that is, children in need of care and protection. And it consists of a chairperson and 5 members appointed by the state government. This is a very unique body as it consists of persons who have been actively involved in health, education, or welfare activities pertaining to children for at least 7 years, or are practicing professionals with a degree in child psychology or psychiatry or law or social work or sociology or human development, and they have been vested with the power of a judicial magistrate of the first class so as to conduct inquiries and pass final orders for children whose cases they are hearing. The CWC has to function as a bench to dispose of cases for the care, protection, treatment, development, and rehabilitation of children in need of care and protection, as well as to provide for their basic needs and protection. The composition of the CWC is such that persons from these various disciplines with relevant experience of working with children sit together as a bench, together conducting a multidisciplinary inquiry into each individual case. They are then required to pass interim and final orders focused on the care and protection of the child and based on the child's best interests. These orders can only be changed through specific legal procedures, that is, on appeal or revision orders. Of course, the CWC can also amend its own orders either on its own or based on an application it has received. But the scope of such changes is limited to changes with regard to the placement of the child by a person or the placement of a child in an institution. When a child from any of the categories listed in Section 2, Subclause 14, who is thought to be at risk of harm or already a victim of neglect, abuse, or exploitation, is brought before the Child Welfare Committee, the Child Welfare Committee is required to conduct an inquiry to understand the circumstances and the needs of the child. This is done by directing certain functionaries to prepare what is called a social investigation report, which provides details about the child's family, his education, health, etc., and whether or not the child is a victim of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, or whether the child is likely to be a victim of the same if not provided protection by the state. The CWC is then required to speak to the child, as appropriate, of course, taking into account the age and maturity of the child and the child's right to participate in matters concerning him. The CWC then takes his or her views into consideration and then, sitting as a bench, passes a legally binding order in order to ensure that the child receives care, protection, treatment, rehabilitation services that is needed in order to facilitate his or her well-being and social integration back into the community. If the CWC is satisfied that the child is indeed a child in need of care and protection, then it can, on consideration of the social investigation report and taking account of the child's wishes, if sufficiently mature, pass one or more of the following orders. Declare that the child is a CNCP, that is, a child in need of care and protection. Restore the child to a parent or guardian family with or without supervision. Place the child in a children's home or a fit facility or a specialized adoption agency for the purpose of adoption after declaring such child legally free for adoption, or with a fit person for long-term or temporary care, or an individual or group foster care, or in aftercare. The CWC can pass directions to issue sponsorship for a child, pass directions to persons or institutions or facilities in whose care the child is placed to provide care, protection, rehabilitation, including immediate shelter, medical attention, psychiatric and psychological support, therapy, skill training, legal aid, education, etc. The CWC also has the power to transfer a child to any other facility for specialized treatment, or it can also repatriate the child back to his home state. This final order has to include something very important, an individual care plan for the child. And this plan is to ensure the care, protection, appropriate rehabilitation or restoration of the child. And it includes necessary directions to parents or guardians or fit persons or children's homes or fit facilities in this regard. The CWC can pass any other order in relation to any other function that has been bestowed on it under this Act. For example, if a child is at risk of being forced into marriage by parents, the social investigation report is likely to reveal information about the same, and the CWC would consider passing orders to take the child into state custody and placing her either in a children's home or in a foster home or in the care of a fit person, so that the child is no more at risk from her family. The CWC is likely to also include an individual care plan that specifies the kind of care and protection that this child needs, which could include directions to send the child to school, to provide her with counseling, and subsequently to restore the child to her parents under supervision. What are the child care institutions that are established under this Act for children in need of care and protection? The Act provides for the establishment of 3 kinds of child care institutions for children in need of care and protection, and these may be run or managed by the state or by NGOs. These are as follows. Children's home. The children's home is for the purpose of placement of a child in need of care and protection for their care, treatment, education, training, development, and rehabilitation. Open shelter. These open shelters are to function as community-based facilities for children in need of residential support on a short-term basis, with the objective of protecting them from abuse or weaning them or keeping them away from a life on the street. Specialized adoption agencies. These agencies are for housing orphans, abandoned and surrendered children placed there by the order of the CWC for the purpose of adoption. Any child care institution registered under this Act is duty-bound to admit children subject to the capacity of the institution as directed by the Child Welfare Committee, irrespective of whether they receive grants from the central or the state government. All child care institutions are also required to provide rehabilitation services to children residing there. What are the non-institutional rehabilitation services for children in need of care and protection under this Act? As regards rehabilitation and social integration, these processes are to be undertaken for all children under the Act based on the individual care plan prepared for the child, and preferably through family-based care, such as by restoration to family or guardian with or without supervision or sponsorship, or adoption or foster care or aftercare. Foster care is the placement of a child by the Child Welfare Committee for the purpose of alternate care in the domestic environment of a family, but a family other than the child's biological family. And that family is to be selected qualified, approved and supervised for providing such care. Foster care cannot be provided by the child's biological or prospective adoptive parents. All efforts have to be made to place siblings together in foster families, unless, of course, it is not in their best interest to do so. Sponsorship is the provision of supplementary support, financial or otherwise, to the families to meet medical, educational and developmental needs of the child. The state governments have been empowered to frame rules for the purpose of undertaking various programs of sponsorship of children, such as individual to individual sponsorship, group sponsorship or community sponsorship, and to determine the duration of sponsorship. The sponsorship program may provide supplementary support to families, to children's homes, to meet medical, nutritional, educational and other needs of the children, with a view to improving their quality of life. Aftercare means making provision of support, financial or otherwise, to persons who have completed the age of 18 years but have not completed the age of 21, and these children have left any childcare institution to join the mainstream of society. For an adoption, we will talk about it later in this module. Who is a child welfare police officer and what is a special juvenile police unit? As per section 107 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, in every police station, at least one officer not below the rank of an assistant sub-inspector with aptitude, appropriate training and orientation may be designated as the child welfare police officer to exclusively deal with children either as victims or perpetrators in coordination with the police, voluntary organizations and NGOs. The state government should constitute special juvenile police units in every district and city to coordinate all functions of police related to children. The Special Juvenile Police Unit is to be headed by a police officer not below the rank of a Deputy Superintendent of Police or above, and consists of all police officers designated as child welfare police officers, as well as 2 social workers having experience of working in the field of child welfare, one of whom has to be a woman. The Special Juvenile Police Unit will also include railway police dealing with children. Now let's talk about registration of childcare institutions under the JJ Act. In order to ensure that all residential care facilities run either by the state government or by voluntary organizations or NGOs and meant wholly or partially for housing children in need of care and protection or children in conflict with law, adhere to certain minimum standards of care, these institutions have to be registered under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 in such manner as prescribed under the rules framed under this Act, whichever is applicable to that state. This has to be done by July 15th, 2015, regardless of whether such institutions receive grants from the central government or the state government, or whether they are registered or licensed under any other act for the time being in force. However, childcare institutions having valid registrations under the JJ Act 2000 on the date of commencement of the JJ Act 2015 are deemed to have been registered under this Act. Any person or persons in charge of a childcare institution housing children in need of care and protection or children in conflict with law who fail to register can be punished with imprisonment which may extend to 1 year or a fine of not less than 1 lakh rupees or both. Moreover, every 30 days delay in applying for registration will be considered as a separate offence. Let's talk about inspection and monitoring of the implementation of this Act. The state government is required to appoint inspection committees for the state and every district to inspect all institutions registered or recognized to be fit under this Act. The functions of the inspection committee are as follows: inspect all institutions registered for recognized to be fit under the JJ Act for such period and for such purposes as prescribed in the rules under this Act, and submit a report within a week of the inspection. Inspect any institution housing children to determine whether such institution is housing a child who is a child in need of care and protection by the state. Conduct visits to all facilities housing children in the area allocated at least once in 3 months and submit reports of the findings of such visits within a week to the District Child Protection Unit or the state government, as the case may be, for further action. Inspect any institution housing children, even if not registered under this Act, to determine whether it is housing a child in need of care and protection. Within a month of the inspection report being submitted, appropriate follow-up action has to be taken by the District Child Protection Unit or the state government, and a compliance report should be submitted to the state government. The report is to be forwarded to the State Child Protection Society or the District Child Protection Unit for appropriate action, given their own mandates related to the JJ Act and its implementation. That is, the State Child Protection Society is required to ensure the implementation of the Act, and the District Child Protection Unit is the focal point for the same at the district level. The Child Welfare Committees are required to inspect child care institutions for children in need of care and protections, and as well as inspect foster families, whereas the Juvenile Justice Boards are required to inspect child care institutions for children in conflict with law, after which they are required to make recommendations for necessary action to the District Child Protection Unit or the state government. The JJB also has to inspect jails to check if any child is residing there and take immediate measures for transfer of such a child to the observation home. The National Commission for Protection of Child Rights and the State Commissions for Protection of Child Rights are bodies created under the Commissions for Protection of Child Rights Act 2005. These have been assigned the task of monitoring the implementation of the JJ Act 2015. Now let's talk about adoption under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. The JJ Act 2015 requires adoptions to be resorted to for ensuring the right to family for orphaned, abandoned and surrendered children. Adoption has been defined as a process through which the adopted child is permanently separated from his biological parents and then becomes the lawful child of his adoptive parents with all the rights, privileges and responsibilities that are attached to a biological child. Specialized adoption agencies are to be established by an NGO or a state government to house of orphaned, abandoned or surrendered children who have been placed there for the purpose of adoption by an order of the Child Welfare Committee. The Child Welfare Committee has to declare a child who is found to be an orphan or surrendered or abandoned child as a child who is legally free for adoption. The Act covers in-country, inter-country and also adoption among relatives, irrespective of religion. Taking or sending a child to a foreign country or taking part in any arrangement to transfer the care and custody of a child to another person in a foreign country without a valid court order is a punishable offence. The Act, however, specifies that the JJ Act 2015 will not apply to adoptions under the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956. However, adoption of a child by a relative of a child, irrespective of their religion, can be under the provisions of the JJ Act and the adoption regulations framed by the authority, which is the Central Adoption Resource Authority, formerly called CARA or the Central Adoption Resource Agency, and this authority is responsible for regulating adoption under the JJ Act. Now let's talk about offences against children under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. An entire chapter on offences against children has been included in the Juvenile Justice Act 2015, which expands the list of crimes against children and penalties for the same provided under the Indian Penal Code and other laws such as the Information Technology Act 2000, etc. This is aimed at criminalizing certain acts of abuse, neglect or exploitation and abetment of such acts, and filling in gaps in law, thereby strengthening the protective environment for children. For example, Though the GG Act 2000 did prohibit the disclosure of identity of a child in need of care and protection or a child in conflict with law, it did not apply to children involved in inquiries or trials under other laws. The Juvenile Justice Act 2015, however, now also protects a child victim or a child witness to a crime involved in any inquiry or investigation or judicial procedure under any other law for the time being in force. Therefore, if a magazine publishes an article with a photo of a child involved in a proceeding before, say, the family court, it will now be liable for punishment for a term which may extend to 6 months, or a fine which may extend to 2 lakh of rupees, or both. The new offences that have now been incorporated into the Juvenile Justice Act include prohibition on disclosure of identity of children, cruelty to a child, employment of a child for begging, giving intoxicating liquor or narcotic drug or psychotropic substance to a child, using a child for vending, peddling, carrying or supplying or smuggling any intoxicating liquor, narcotic drug or psychotropic substance, exploitation of a child employee, adoption without following prescribed procedures, sale and procurement of children for any purpose, corporal punishment, use of a child by militant groups or other adults, kidnapping and abduction of a child. The seriousness of offences committed against children with disability has also been recognized, which is why such offences attract a double penalty. The list also includes penalties for abetment of a crime, for repeat offenders, and for offences committed by a person in authority. Any child who commits any offence under this chapter will be considered as a child in conflict with law under this Act. The GG Act provides for all orders of the Child Welfare Committee to be appealed except for orders that a child is a child in need of care and protection. For example, appeals cannot be against an order of the Child Welfare Committee finding a person not to be a child in need of care and protection. It also empowers the Child Welfare Committee to amend any orders passed by itself as to the institution to which a child is to be sent, or as to the person under whose care or supervision a child is to be placed under this Act. The High Court may at any time, either on its own or on an application received, call for the record of any proceeding in which any committee has passed an order for the purpose of satisfying itself as to the legality or propriety of any such order, and may pass an order in relation to it as it thinks fit. The central government and every state government has to also take necessary measures to ensure that A. The provisions of this Act are given wide publicity through the media, including television, radio and print media at regular intervals, so as to make the general public, children and their parents or guardians aware of such provisions, and B. The officers of the central government, state government and other concerned persons are imparted periodic training on the matters relating to the implementation of the Act. In this module, you would have been able to get a brief overview of who is a child in need of care and protection, what is a Child Welfare Committee, what are the child care institutions that are to be established for children in need of care and protection, non-institutional rehabilitation services for children in need of care and protection, including foster care, sponsorship, aftercare and adoption, the Special Juvenile Police Unit, registrations of child care institutions, inspection and monitoring of the Act, offences against children, and appeals, revision orders, and the power of the CWC to amend its own orders. For more information, you may choose to read the reference material provided along with this module. Thank you.